Okay, Trips, let's see what you got. Hello and welcome to FTTR, I am Hugh McQuaid, and today we are talking about SummerSlam 2022. It feels mental that it's been a year since the Roman Reigns John Cena SummerSlam. That's insane, but here we are. No Vince, strictly Trips, pretty much. Let's see how this panned out. His first big pay-per-view, his main roster pay-per-view debut. He's looking to make a splash. So how did he fare? This is my review. I'm going to talk through the angles, talk through the matches, talk about the show as a whole, and let you know my thoughts. Please hit subscribe for more wrestling content. And shall we just dive into the show? So we've got the opening video package, which again, always really well put together, these video packages. No one does video packages in wrestling like WWE. And we got the first match, Bianca Belair taking on Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship in a legit, in my opinion, match of the year contender. This was flawless, absolutely flawless. I loved how it started, all the chain wrestling. Bianca was just incredible in this match. She was being the EST of a WWE in this match. She was doing all the handsprings, she was doing the backflips, she did the strength spots, absolutely everything, and Becky made her look amazing. There were some really cool spots in this match. There was a really cool leg drop on the outside in the timekeepers area, which I thought looked sick. There was a really, really cool... Becky went for the leg drop from the second rope and just got caught with a power slam from the ropes by Bianca Belair. I thought that was great. But what I really liked about this match, and I feel like this is a legit change from Triple H, I just think the action's faster. Even like the chain wrestling sequences, there was barely a rest hold in sight, I felt, for this. No working over, no chin locks, no headlocks. It was just technical chain wrestling at the beginning. And then spot, which is very indicative of what he did in NXT. It was minimal sort of rest holds in NXT. I just feel like the matches themselves had a lot more fire behind them. And this one in particular, I thought was absolutely great. And Bianca, she hits a KOD on Becky on the outside. Becky gets in at 9. And she eventually wins with a huge, probably the best looking KOD I have ever seen. Flawless, absolutely flawless. I preferred this match to their WrestleMania match. Personally, that might be me in the minority. And this is probably my favourite women's match of the year. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's amazing what they've done with Bianca. She really sticks out. She's a star. She's an absolute star. And she's in there with Becky. So this feels so big time. No pun intended. And yeah, I just love this. I really, really love this match. And the angle that came after made it all the more sweeter because Becky goes for a handshake. Of course, this all started with a handshake. SummerSlam 2021, nearly. Started off with Becky extending the hand to Bianca and Becky clocked her. Except this time round, they had an embrace. A year-long story. Probably not how they intended for it to go. Let's just say that right now. But a fantastic way to cap it off. Becky turns face. I think it's good. I think Big Time Bex has sort of run its course. I kind of want to get back to the man. You know what I mean? And then Bayley's music hits. And out comes Bayley. And it's like, oh, we have a big return in the opening match. This is going to get people to stick around. But it was not just one. Out comes Dakota Kai. And then out comes Io Sky. Not Io Shirai, even though it said it on the Titantron, which is very weird. And they had a stare down. They had a stare down with Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch, seemingly setting up a feud going forward between... I'd quite like to see Bayley versus Becky. I can't really recall, and correct me in the comments, a big Becky-Bayley feud. I can recall the Bayley-Bianca feud because they had a great Hell in a Cell match. But I can't really remember if there was a Becky-Bayley feud. So I hope they go that way and maybe set Alexa Bliss up with Bianca. And then Bayley and Bianca can cross paths later down the line. That's how I think it should go. And I'm really excited to see Dakota Kai back, because I love Dakota Kai. I love Io Shirai. I'm going to do that, Io Sky as well. So yeah, this was just a win all round. The only slight tweak I would have made to this is maybe change the order in which Bayley, Dakota Kai and Io Sky came out. I would maybe have started with Io, then brought out Dakota, because then you get the pop of, oh, she was released and she's back, and then have Bayley come out at the end for the big pop. So yeah, other than that, flawless segment. Loved the match, can't complain. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Logan Paul versus The Miz in a match that I don't think anyone sort of expected anything from. But my God, you know, Logan Paul is legit great. This wasn't Miz carrying Logan Paul. This was Logan Paul just being an excellent worker. You know, some of the bits were a bit green, like the clothesline, even though it looked brutal, probably wasn't supposed to be that hard. Some of the strikes were pretty hard. I can't really recall many botches. Struggling to get his balance a few times, but again, they're just creases. They're creases that can be ironed out. The rest of this, I thought was fantastic, and I thought it was a really, really cool story that they told as well with the finish. But some of the spots in here, the standing moonsault, the moonsault off the apron, fantastic. The big frog splash, Shane McMahon-esque, through the announcer's table was goddamn fantastic. What? Absolutely what? And then in the middle of this, you get a Ciampa AJ Styles feud, which is what we want. I think that's the way you can separate Ciampa from AJ. No, Ciampa from Miz. Sorry, I'm proper rambling here and making some mistakes. Oh, please subscribe. And this was just, I thought this was just great, absolutely great. And the finish of Logan Paul winning with a skull-crushing finale, same way he got turned on by The Miz at WrestleMania, put a full stop on this story. I think it's really good, and I genuinely, God, I never thought I'd say this, never, genuinely hope Logan Paul is around come Monday nights, because he was really good, and I never thought I'd say this. Really, really loved this match, and the show was off to such a hot start. Then we got a very weird segment with Maximum Male Models advertising water. Damn is all I can say about that. Just damn. Then we got United States Championship match. Bobby Lashley taking on Austin Theory, because I'm never going to call him Theory. He's always going to be Austin Theory. In a match that was pretty much Monday Night Raw. I can take or leave this match. I thought Bobby looked really cool in this match. He had some really cool spots. I think Theory's been beaten. Theory does look quite terrible now, but he got a few bits of offense in. He hit a really sick rolling drop kick, which looked great. Bobby sold it like a champ. And then Bobby, with the win, with this awesome, he caught Theory as he was rolling in, caught him in a military press, and then dropped him down into the Hurt Lock for the win to retain his championship. Fun stuff, just a bit generic for this card. Bit too generic, and I feel like Theory's been beaten too much. If he does win the title via cash-in, I think it's going to be a bit lame, a bit Miz winning the WWE title. So yeah, and as for what's next for Bobby, you look at some of the challenges that are laid out on Raw, and a lot of them are sort of occupied. You know, you've got AJ's wrapped up with Ciampa, you've got the Judgment Day with Edge. So I can't really think of who's going to challenge Bobby next. Maybe an NXT call-up would be quite nice, or maybe he gets in a feud with Maximum Male Models and they sort of switch brands. Getting feuding with Max Dupree, I think that would be quite good. But yeah, I don't really know what's next for Bobby, and that's quite exciting. Logan Paul, there we go. Logan Paul versus Bobby Lashley at Clash at the Castle. Make it happen. Then the Monday Night Raw train sort of continued with a very, very generic tag match between the Judgement Day and the Mysterios. There's not much that I can say about this, really. This was the most fine of anything that has ever been fine in the history of wrestling. It was just fine. There were a few neat spots. I almost forgot this was a no DQ match as well, because it was people were tagging in, which I just think is weird. If it's a no DQ match, surely it should just be Tornado Rules, because it's a no DQ match. But yeah, there was a nice penguin slide from Mysterio landing on Balor. I think Balor does look good, but again, the Judgment Day are just rubbish. They're so bad. They keep losing. It's not good. Not good for Finn, not good for Priest, not good for Rhea. Maybe the Edge thing, which we'll talk about now. Edge made his re-debut. I'm not keen on Brood Edge. Not my thing. I'm much more rated R Superstar Edge. So for me, I would have had him come out to Metalingus. I think that would have been a bit more impactful. But yeah, it seems like we're getting Spooky Edge versus Spooky Judgment Day with the help of the Mysterios going forward. Yeah, okay. I feel like Edge is just going to beat Balor and he's going to go even further down that hole. Poor Finn. But yeah, this was the most standard of standard tag matches for me. Sort of slowed the momentum of the show, even though the Edge return was pretty cool. It was okay. And then we got a match that I am super torn on. This match is 50% good, and the 50% that was good is Pat McAfee, because it was Pat McAfee versus Baron Corbin. Honestly, I've never been more done with someone in my life than Baron Corbin. His matches are so boring, and I think Pat tried his best. Pat is, phenomenal at what he does. He botches, but he saves it, which I think is ridiculous. When he went to do the top rope swanton, oh my god, that was scary. I thought he was legit going to fall and injure himself, but no, he survived. He hit a big superplex on Corbin. Corbin did his big blows. He worked over Pat a lot, and it was just a bit sluggish, because I don't find Happy Corbin an interesting character in the slightest. I really don't. And yeah, Pat won. Pat won with like a very, very messy sunset flip. I thought he was going for the Panama Sunrise, but it sort of went into a sunset flip, and he won. Yeah, this was okay. It was just okay. But let's talk about the one big highlight from this match. Nothing to do with the competitors in the ring. Michael Cole on commentary. And I'll use this point to just talk about commentary as a whole. It was so much better. Like, to me, it's night and day. I feel like if I go back and I watch, like, day one, for instance, from this year, the commentary is just going to be night and day to what Triple H is producing and what Vince is producing, because I don't feel like there's no buzzwords, there's no, mindless just nonsense that comes out of their mouths. This felt really authentic and genuine, particularly Cole's relationship with McAfee and Corey Graves' relationship with Corbin. They worked so well off each other, and I didn't find any of them detestable, like I often do with WWE commentary. It was fantastic commentary throughout the night, and Michael Cole, what a resurgence he's having. Just great stuff from him. Then we got a recap of Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. Drew will be facing Roman Reigns at Clash of the Castle. Spoiler for the main event. And Drew cut a really, really cool, funny babyface promo in which he basically slammed the main event, saying we've seen it a million times, which I think, nice, you know what you've got. Self-awareness. And the one thing WWE lacked was self-awareness. I don't think they were ever self-aware about anything when Vince McMahon was in charge. But no, got this really cool promo. We got, Colt, everyone chanting Colt, this young boy at the side. And yeah, sword up, pyro, cool. Drew looks cool. I hope they can build him really well for Clash of the Castle, where I wasn't thinking it before. I'm thinking it now. I think you may well pull the trigger on Drew beating Roman in the UK, because otherwise that'd just be time to tear the house down. You mad? The next match we got was the undisputed tag team championship match between the Street Profits and the Usos with Jeff Jarrett. I still laugh whenever I hear that. As the special guest referee, that played into absolutely dick in this. Absolutely nothing. I don't understand why it was Jeff Jarrett. I honestly couldn't tell you why it was Jeff Jarrett other than it was his hometown, which is still a very weird way to sort of bring in a guest referee. This match was nothing on their Money in the Bank encounter. I thought this was actually pretty boring. I don't think there was much didn't really stand out to me, this match. And I thought some of the spots, just the storytelling in general going into this, didn't make sense because at the end of the day, the issue they had with the match was bad officiating. And Jarrett called it straight down the line. But he's also, would you get a wrestler in unless to be a referee? Why don't you just hire a better referee? Instead of getting a wrestler to do it. It made no sense. There were a few nice spots in this. There was a nice, super kick on the outside, double super kick that sounded great. Sounded really good. There was no sort of ref bump or anything either. And there was a really close near fall off a frog splash from Montez Ford, which you could sort of see him getting a bit more unhinged, getting a bit more edgy. That's the last thing I'd do if I were WWE. Do not turn Montez Ford heel. If anything, turn Angelo Dawkins heel and do the split that way, which I think they might do. I think they might actually zig. I think they're giving us this taste of Ford's sort of heat, frustration and potential heel turn to then zig and do Angelo Dawkins. That's the way I sort of see it going. But the Usos retained here in a fine match. Just fine. Just completely fine. Nothing more to say about this, other than I sort of hope the Usos lose at some point because it's getting a bit suffocating on the division. Then we got a really, really sick bit. I love this. This felt so off the cuff and great. Corey Graves is just talking, doing his promo, and then someone just grabs the mic off him and Riddle shoots in the ring, and you're like, oh, what is happening here? And then he cuts a promo calling out Seth. Out comes Seth, and the two brawl, full of officials, and stomp from Seth, takes down Riddle. He's got the injury to his neck. That's why they're not on the card. And I thought this was an incredibly solid angle. Really solid. And I can't remember, again, something like this happening pre-Triple H. I really can't remember something so off the cuff and frantic happening in recent memory. But do remind me in the comments. I thought this was fantastic angle. Made both guys look great. And I can't wait to see their match at Clash at the Castle. Then we got probably the weirdest match of the night, and sort of the weirdest in terms of creative anyway, which is Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Let's get the elephant, that makes no sense what I was about to say. The elephant in the room. Liv looked terrible in this match. She looked shite. And I love Liv Morgan. I think she's great. But I'm over champions not being babyface champions in particular. Babyface champions who aren't particularly very good, essentially fluking wins. That's what we got with Nikki ASH last year, and it's what we're getting now. Why can't she just be a badass? Just square up to Ronda. Maybe she's a little bit out of her depth because she's up against an MMA fighter, but get some actual offense in. There was nothing here for Liv. She got like a good enziguri in, but she really didn't hit much. This was just Ronda absolutely dominating it, which I love Ronda as well. And I like the heel turn after, and I liked the finish of this to an extent. So the finish was Ronda had Liv in the armbar. Ronda sort of rolls onto her back to get full extension on the armbar. Liv taps out of the referee's view because the ref is looking at Ronda's shoulder, counts the pin for Ronda, and Liv flukes, and she also visibly tapped out, which interesting finish. I much prefer. I think it was, when was it? SummerSlam 2018, I think it was SummerSlam 2018, the Samoa Joe AJ Styles match, in which Joe had him in the coquina clutch, AJ rolls back, and completely out of view, even away from the cameras, there's the tap, and the ref was looking at Joe's shoulder, and Joe's reaction to it was insane. I don't think Ronda had the sort of the fire behind her. out of being screwed, she essentially did get screwed, and the heel turn didn't feel as violent as it should have been. She should have been tearing up the ring. She should have destroyed Liv Morgan. I think that would have been better. And the way I would have booked this I would write Liv off TV. Ronda just destroys her. Maybe even vacate the SmackDown Women's Championship and really sell that injury. And then Charlotte can come in. Everyone's like, oh God, not Charlotte again. And then you have Liv return, and she is a fired up babyface. She is on people's levels. She can hang with these guys. But instead we got this fluke win, and I'm not a big fan of that. The match itself was okay, but again, it was basically a squash match. So, yeah, not a fan of this angle, not a fan of the way they're treating Liv, not a fan of the heel turn and the way it was executed. This was just bad. This was the worst part of the show. Then we got Kane coming out. Hangman Page has said everything that needs to be said about Kane. Let's end that there. Then we got the main event. We got Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns in a last man standing match. I don't particularly love last man standing matches. I'll throw it out there. I think they can be a bit monotonous and a bit boring. This match was everything I thought it would be in terms of Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. There were a lot of spots in here that were, great. One of the most underrated spot that not a lot of people are talking about in this was there was a bit of destroyed table. And Brock, I think he does a uranagi. He did a uranagi on Roman through this table, and it just sort of exploded. It was at the perfect angle, and Roman sold it like a champ, and I was like, oh my God, that's sick. Brock made me laugh because he did botch trying to do a springboard clothesline, which, fair enough, he recovered, and I wouldn't laugh in his face about it. But the rest of this I thought was just pretty standard Roman Reigns stuff. And then the tractor came out, and Brock had driven the tractor down to the front, and it was sort of overhanging the ring throughout the match. And he did a jump off it, and I thought, okay, that's pretty cute. Brock doing some high spots. Oh my God, didn't do a shooting star press though. Shame. And so he got Roman's limp body, put him in the digger. I'm not going to call it was a tractor. I'm probably going to call it a digger though. And elevated it above the ring, tipped Roman out. And I was like, that looked pretty poor, because it didn't look that high. It didn't look like that bad of a bump. I think they thought it had looked better than it did. And then he just starts reversing. And he rams the ring. And I'm like, oh, what's happening here? Then he goes straight under the ring, lifts up the ring to an insane degree. He doesn't fully flip the ring, but near enough. He probably could have flipped it if he wanted to. And Roman just tumbles down here. The fans in the arena were going insane. It was one of the coolest spots I've ever seen. One of the silliest spots I've ever seen. And I fucking loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was so cool. Then the issue came in after that amazing spot of it just went on too long. And that's the problem with last man standing matches. Roman just kept hitting Brock, and Brock kept getting up, which is basically 10 seconds in between everything, and you're just waiting for him to stay down. And eventually he did. After F5ing Paul Heyman through the table, which was a sick bump from Paul, he got buried. Literally buried, not buried backstage. He got buried under some rubble, and the bloodline stood tall. Okay way to end the match. This was a one spot match, but that spot was so good that it sort of elevated everything in this match. This is probably my favourite Brock Roman match. I did really enjoy the WrestleMania 34 one, because it was just like brutal and bloody and sort of out of nowhere that Brock won. This is probably, from a work rate and just stories told and spots and stuff, this is probably my favourite. But again, not an amazing main event, just one amazing spot that's just tore the roof off the place. So overall, I think this show is such a mixed bag, and it was so heavily favoured towards the front. You had two great matches at the start, and you had a great spot and an okay match at the end. It was okay. I thought this was broadly fine, but I'm excited to see if Triple H gets a clean slate going forward. Overall, I'd give the show 3 out of 5 stars. Maybe that's controversial, but end of the day, I thought it was okay. Just okay. It was just okay, guys. Don't come at me. It was just okay, in my opinion. But yes, that's my review of SummerSlam. I want to know what you guys think about this, and what do you think about Triple H's era going forward? Do you think he will start fresh? Do you think he will continue some of these storylines? Let me know down in the comments below, and I will try and reply to every single one of you. Thank you all ever so much for your support, and have a nice day.